I'm going to Hawaii by myself because canceling everything wouldn't be too good for the company. You understand, right?
My husband says he's going on a trip to Hawaii alone, in front of his daughter who had come down with a high fever the day before the trip. Not too satisfied with how he was handling the situation. I really couldn't say anything to stop him, mostly because it was he who had worked so hard to get the tickets to Hawaii in the first place. I sent my husband off before going back inside to take care of my sick daughter. The next day, she still had a high fever, and I turned on the TV as I got her to sleep. That's when I beheld my own husband on the screen alongside a woman, arm in arm. I immediately recorded the footage to save the evidence of the affair. I couldn't forgive him for cheating on me and my daughter. I called my in-laws and showed them the proof of my husband's affair. This is the story of how my husband's suspicious behavior turned out to be something totally unexpected and cruel, and how I made a plan with my in-laws to send both him and his sweetheart to the darkest pit of hell. My name is Naomi, and I'm 33 years old. I used to live with my husband Grant and my daughter Ruby.
Grant and I had been married for 8 years. And right around this whole incident started, Ruby was in her last year of kindergarten, and she was growing to be such a sweet child, as she was always helping me in whatever way she could.
Our family was very close once upon a time. We went shopping together on weekends, and we always went on trips outside the city during long holidays. We occasionally even went abroad for these trips. Last year we went to Hong Kong for about a week. We were well known through the neighborhood for being such a close family. More recently, Ruby had started asking for a younger sister, and I started thinking about having a second child. But just when I started thinking about it, Grant started acting pretty strangely. Starting about a year ago, the way he spent his holidays became something completely different, as it really didn't include us at all. We used to all go shopping together as a family on his days off, but he started saying he was going fishing with a couple of junior colleagues from his job. What was especially strange was that Grant never had a hobby of fishing, at least not to my knowledge. But once he went fishing with his junior colleagues, he became addicted to it and started going almost every week. I thought it was great how he found a new hobby he was passionate about, but the fact that he always excluded me and Ruby from these activities made me wonder where his priorities lay. Ruby used to go to the park or shopping with her daddy on his days off, and now that he spent those away from home, she missed him terribly. During the week after he came home from work, Ruby could only spend time with her daddy when she went and showered with him, and that was why she always looked forward to shower time very much. However, the only time she was able to spend time with her daddy had also disappeared before she knew it, and that was because not only did Grant do other things on weekends, but he started working overtime more often on weekdays and started coming home late. That was because not only did Grant do other things on weekends, but he additionally started working overtime more often on weekdays and started coming home late. His company had never had him work overtime, and up until when everything changed, he came home on time every day. So I was perplexed by this sudden change in working hours. He suddenly started working overtime, and that was almost every day, no less. Grant had told me that his workplace had recently partnered with a major company, which was why they were going to be busy for quite a while. However, it was obvious that he was working overtime too often. And I was even a little suspicious of my husband's behavior, and I had good reason to be. As you might already know, most companies pay their employees more if they willingly stay after the usual time when work finishes to keep at it. Otherwise, it could be considered a form of exploitation, and the company could be called out and even destroyed because of it. Grant's workplace was known to be very worker-friendly, and thus they should evidently have the get paid more if you work more hours policy instated, which would mean Grant should have had a pretty substantial increase in his salary since he worked overtime pretty much every day. But no such increase in salary was seen anywhere. How do I know this? I became a housewife when I got married per Grant's request, and I was therefore in charge of managing his account. I know exactly what his normal salary was, And all those hours of overtime notwithstanding, the numbers never increased at all. I had hoped that even if his salary did not go up, his winter bonus might increase quite a bit as recognition, but it was instead seemed to be actually less than last year's. That evidently made it even stranger. That's why I decided to ask him about his overtime work, touching on the subject of his salary as a foundational evidence. Hey, I know you've been working a lot of overtime lately, but I was wondering why your salary hasn't gone up at all these past few months. Shouldn't you tell someone about this at the company? This is grounds for being called a black enterprise, honey. They should be called out if that's the case.
I can't help it, Naomi. Now that my workplace partnered with a big conglomerate, they don't have much money to spare for paying their employees more.
But it's strange how that's the case even though you're working so hard. There's no family time, not on weekdays nor on holidays, because you go fishing with your workplace friends. And to top it off, you don't get paid enough. You really are working overtime, aren't you?
What? You're doubting me now?
I'm not doubting you, honey, and I'm not questioning your salary for all the hours you work. It's just, it doesn't seem right.
You've only been talking to me about my salary for the past 10 minutes now. What exactly are you expecting out of me, eh? You asked me to give you a more lavish life?
That's not what I'm saying. When did I ever say? I'm just...
Shut up. You're a stay-at-home mom, and I don't expect you to complain about my salary. Lest we forget, it's because of my salary that you and the kid can have a roof over your head and good food to eat. Don't talk to me about my salary again.
With that, Grant went into his room and didn't come out for the rest of the evening. I guess what pissed him off is that me, the one whom he has to take care of financially, said some things about his situation that he didn't particularly like. I figured that talking about his salary anymore would upset him, so I decided not to mention it again. And I thought it would be rude to him and a bit of a blow to his pride, despite he worked so hard for us as a responsible husband and father. So I stopped questioning him. The next morning I woke up and greeted him. He responded to Ruby's, "Good morning, Daddy," but he never responded to me. I thought that was strange, so I greeted him again, but he never answered yet again. After that, Grant and I stopped talking to each other. He would talk to me when Ruby was around, but when we were alone, he would not engage in any conversation at all. Even my daughter would ask me, "Did you and Daddy have a fight?" I was determined I would pull him aside one day soon after he got home from work. And we would talk about it, because I knew her parents never talking to each other wasn't a good thing to behold for Ruby. And there was no way she could ever have the sister she wanted with this situation. He came home on time one evening and was in a very good mood. He greeted me with an "I'm home" and a little peck on the cheek. And our family conversation returned to the way it used to be. Ruby was happy to hear that her daddy and I had patched things up, or so it seemed. Truth be told, I felt a little skeptical about him suddenly being in a better mood. But there's nothing better than a family that gets along well. With this in mind, I was cleaning up Grant's belongings while he was taking a bath with Ruby. And then I found a travel ticket to Hawaii in his bag. As I looked at it curiously, he came out of the bath and hurriedly snatched it away from my grasp.
Why travel vouchers for my workplace's best employees? I got it because I worked overtime a bunch this year.
I see. That's great, honey. I was convinced the reason Grant was in such a good mood was because the company recognized his hard work. And was that the reason? Or was it because I was going to Hawaii for the first time in my life that I was so happy? I'm looking forward to the trip. We're going to Hawaii.
Wes,
Okay, where does Grant's strangeness draw the line? It was one thing after another at this point. I thought this particular response was a little strange, but in the moment, I was far more excited about the trip to Hawaii, so I ran to find Ruby and told her, "Daddy got a travel ticket to Hawaii, sweetheart. We're going on a very fun trip."
We can go to Hawaii? Really? Well, thank you, Daddy.
Ruby was so happy that she ran up to her daddy, hugged his legs, and kissed his hand. She squealed her thanks. And if Grant wasn't strange enough already with his responses to me, he merely answered, "Oh, yeah." To her exclamations, I wondered why he was acting like that. But, like I said, I was so looking forward to my first trip to Hawaii. After that, I tried to plan the trip with Grant. Here are the divorce documents. I want you to sign them. With pressure from his father, he reluctantly filled in all the required information and signed the papers. After taking the papers back from my now ex-husband, I said my sincere thanks and goodbyes to my parents-in-law before leaving the house. I then went to City Hall to submit the divorce papers, and they were accepted without any problems. Later on, Grant was fired from his job. I sent proof of the affair to his workplace. I had the hunch that the person with whom he was having an affair, Jennifer, might be someone from his workplace, and I sent the evidence to the company in hopes of finding her and of punishing her as well. I hit the jackpot, and of punishing her as well. I hit the jackpot because it turned out that Jennifer really was a co-worker of his, and they were both fired from their jobs immediately.
I've been fired from my job because of you, and my life is ruined. You better take responsibility and pay me alimony.
What the hell are you talking about? It's your fault for having an affair in the first place, Mr. Belmondo. It's called getting what you deserve, if you know what I mean. I'm actually not too sure you do know. Repeat after me. Getting what you deserve. Reserve all the excuses for someone who freaking cares.
You, damn, god damn it. So I might have been able to do something myself if all you said was the proof of the affair. But you went and sent all of my stuff to my workplace, and they freaking got rid of it all. What are you gonna do about it? Did you hear what I said? Reserve all the excuses for someone who freaking cares. I don't give a shit what happens to you, as long as you pay me the alimony and child support for my daughter. If you don't pay, I'll hire a lawyer to find you and collect it all. That's all I told him before hanging up. Leaving you has made me realize how much you mean to me, and how much my darling daughter means to me. You're all I've got. You were all I ever had, Naomi. I love the old days I had with you and with Ruby. Surely there are some things you would never realize until you're separated from me, right? I was out of my mind a year ago, and now I truly know how important family is. Please, let's be a family again. Let me prove myself to you and to Ruby. Please. Hello?
I was sick and tired of him saying too many freaking convenient things. He talked endlessly to me, and I never gave him a response. Not a single word ever exited my mouth during that phone call, and I just hung up after a couple of minutes and blocked all his calls. Since then, I've been living happily with my daughter at my parents' home. I'm back at work now and getting pretty busy, but I'm going to cherish the time I have with Ruby and raise her well so that she won't feel lonely ever again.